Okay, so
Divide.
good morning, everyone. So our topic for today is about organizational behavior. No? So personally, no, organizations are intricate system in which people perform their tasks. So the study of organizational behavior focuses on individuals in their workplace, analyzing and comprehending what they do, how they do it, and the factors that influence their actions. No? The goal is to lay the groundwork for implementing human resource policies and practices that will boost organizational capabilities. So the praise organizational behavior, of course, it refers to how people and organizations act individually and in groups, as well as how organizations work in terms of structure, processes, and culture. So there are three more definitions. Now we have organizational structure, functioning, and performance, as well as the behavior of groups and individuals within them are studied. No? So the interdisciplinary body of knowledge and field of research concerned with how formal organizations, employee behavior, and key elements of their context and environment evolve and take shape why things happen the way they do and what objectives they serve. The study of human behavior, attitude, and performance in the workplace using theory, methods, and principles from disciplines such as psychology, sociology, political science, cultural anthropology to learn about individuals, groups, structures, and processes. No? So the characteristic of a people, no? So to effectively manage people, sabi lang, no? You must consider the elements that influence how they behave at work. This entails comprehending the relevance of individual variations, the personality traits that explain how people behave, and the forms of behavior that occur in the workplace. So the notion that everyone is the same and would behave rationally when faced with change or other challenges typically underpins the development of human resource system and the designs of organization. However, people's conduct varies depending on their personality traits and individual variances, and it is not always sensible. People management would be a lot easier if everyone was the same, but that isn't the case. Alam natin yan. They differ, of course, due to differences in personal qualities and the effect of their upbringing, no? The culture in which they were raised. And some people also regard sex, ethnicity, or handicap to be determinants, despite the fact that believing these ideas leads to prejudice. No? Furthermore, they will differ in terms of ability, IQ, personality, background, and the environment in which they were arrived, in which they were raised. No? So when it comes to motivation, no, well-motivated person who were willing to exert discretionary effort, achieve high performance. No, research, no, discovered a 19% difference in value-added discretionary performance between superior and standard employees in even the most basic rules. It was 48% for assignments with a high level of complexity. It is vital to understand how motivation works in order to motivate individuals, and this entails comprehending motivation theory and how it can be applied in practice. Again, a motivation is a reason for acting in a certain way. The degree and decretion of conduct, as well as the variables that encourage people to behave in certain ways, are all aspects of motivation. The term motivation can relate to a variety of things, including personal aspirations, how people choose their goals, and how others strive to modify their behavior. Okay? Another, of course, is the engagement and commitment. The concept of organizational citizenship, which is behavior that benefits the company, but it is not mandated as part of the job description, and it does discretionary, as well as the phrase commitment. Committed, no? Hindi yung committed yung task ka, lumiit ang task, committed, lumiit, no? It is committed or commitment. in the sense of devotion to and identification with the firm has been around for a long time. However, the term engagement has recently gained popularity. No? It is sometimes used very loosely as powerful concept that encompasses pretty much everything the organization is looking for in terms of employee participation and behavior, in terms of work performance, willingness to do more, and organizational identity. We want more engagement is a useful mantra for management and organizations to repeat without always being clear about what they mean by engagement or how it may be achieved. Confusion is exacerbated when definitions of participation are created that conflate it with commitment. No? Let's say, for example, we may define commitment as the relative strength of an individual's connection with and involvement in a particular organization. Employee engagement, on the other hand, was described, of course, as a heightened connections that an employee feels for his or her organizations. An engaged employee, on the other hand, is someone who believes in and identifies with the organization. Of course, the concepts of involvement, commitment, and motivation are all intertwined. It could be claimed that this ambiguity causes little real harm. After all, engagement is a worthy motto. However, unless some effort is taken to separate these concepts, progress in putting them to good use is likely to be gradual. It is important to recognize that engaged employees aren't always committed to their company, that a committed employee isn't always motivated to work harder, and that people may be committed to the company in terms of wanting to stay with it, possibly because they have nowhere else to go, but are still dissatisfied with their jobs. So when it comes on how organizations functions, no? Wait. So an organization, of course, is a group of people who come together to accomplish a common goal. No? Organizing is the process of putting in place agreements in the form of defined or understood duties and relationships that allow people to work together cooperatively. Organization can be defined as system with a structure that includes both formal and informal elements that are affected by their environment. Because formal structure are built on established hierarchies, no, that are depicted in organizational charts. So the majority of the time, job descriptions are very specific. However, they can operate informally as well as formally through a network of responsibilities and relationship that break beyond formal organizational boundaries and lines of command to varied degrees. So the process of group behavior, interaction and networking, leadership, the exercise of power, and the use of politics in organization may well have a far greater impact on how organizations functions than a well-defined organization's chart, accompanied by detailed job descriptions and an organization's manual. Furthermore, the aim, technology, working techniques, and external environments will all have a role in how an organization performs. Again, the aim, technology, working techniques, and external environment will all have a role in how organization performs. No? The human resource specialists contribute to organizational capability, no? An organizational ability to function effectively in order to compete and deliver results in a variety of ways. One of the most important ways human resources specialists contribute is by offering advice on how to best organize the human resources involved. That is why human resource professionals must have a thorough understanding of how business operates. They must be conversant with organizational theory as well as an examination of the various types of organizations and practical structure and process difficulties. Now, we have also an organizational culture. Alam natin yan. Pagdating natin dyan, may culture na dyan. The culture of a company has an impact on how people behave and must be considered as a contingency factor in any program aimed at improving organizational development and human resource policies culture, how it influences businesses and how it can be handled. Excuse. Organizational or corporate culture is a set of values, words, conventions, beliefs, attitudes, and assumptions that impact how people behave in organizations and how things get done, even if they aren't defined. Of course, value or values refers to what is thought to be significant in how people or organization act. The unwritten norms of behavior are known as norms. Again, organizational culture, according, of course, is concerned with the subjective part of what happens in an organization. So it refers to abstract concepts like ideals and conventions that pervade a company's entire or part of its operations, but aren't defined, addressed, or even acknowledged. Okay? Culture, on the other hand, can have a huge impact on people's behavior. No? An organization culture is the distinctive set of convention, values, beliefs, and ways of behavior that describe how groups and individuals work together to accomplish a goal. Okay? A set of basic assumptions that a group has invented, found, and evolved as it learns not to deal with challenges of external adoption and internal integrations, and that has proven to be legitimate enough to be taught to new members as the correct way to perceive, think, and feel about these issues. Okay, the growth process, may result in a culture that pervades the entire organization. However, distinct cultures may exist inside corporations. An outward-facing marketing department, let's say for example, di ba, Circuit, may have a quite different culture than an internally focused manufacturing department. They may be certain shared corporate principles or standards, but they will differ in some ways depending on the work environment. And we are all familiar with different management style. No? We have the charismatic, non-charismatic. We have autocratic, democratic. We have enabler, we have controller. We have transactional, we have transformational. So, as of today, the majority of the managers use a middle ground approach. So some people will change their style depending on the situation or their feelings at that time, while others will adhere to same style regardless of what happens. Take note of it. You as leader, as a manager, you will be able to use this all management style depend upon the situation. It depends upon the situation. Although there is a strong case to be made for selecting a style that is suited for the situation, it is undesirable to be inconsistent in the style used in similar situation. Take note of it. Every manager has his or her unique style, although this will be influenced by the organizational culture, which may result in the dominant management style that represent the expected and adapted behavioral norm for managers. The term management style can also apply to an organization's entire approach to managing employee interactions. Authoritarian, paternalistic, consultative, constitutional, and opportunist styles were identified by some other leader and authors. To give us more details about part 4, sabi ko napakahaba ng part 4, let us all welcome our presenters. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. As you can see on the screen, our topic today is organizational behavior with 6 subtopics. So the subtopics assigned for me are the essence of organizational behavior and the characteristics of people. I am Aliana Sandiego and I'm with Joanna Alarde and Angelica De Riquito. So for the definitions on organizational noted by Wood, organizational behavior is the term used to describe how people within their organization act individually or in groups and how organizations function in terms of their structure. So according naman to Pew, the study of structure, functioning, and performance of organizations and the behavior of groups and individuals. Characteristics of organizational behavior. So, Ivancevich describes 6 characteristics of organizational behavior. First, it is a way of thinking about individuals, groups, and organization. There is a distinctly humanistic orientation. So people and their attitudes, perceptions, learning capacities, feelings, and goals are of major importance. It is performance-oriented. It deals with the factors affecting performance and how it can be improved. The use of scientific method is important in studying variables and relationships. And last, it is applications oriented. So it is applications oriented in the sense of being concerned with providing useful answers to questions which usually naman, diba, arise when managing organizations. Explaining organizational behavior. So according naman to Moore, there are 2 ways of explaining organizational behavior. So the 2 ways are the variance theory and the process theory. So for the variance theory, dito na-explain yung causes of organizational behavior by reference to the independent or causal variables. So variance theory involves the definition and precise measurement of the variables. Sa process theory naman, process theory explains organizational behavior by producing narratives which provide probable explanations of the outcomes of a series of events. Factors affecting organizational behavior. So the actions, reactions, and interactions of people that constitute organizational behavior are influenced by the following factors. So first is the characteristics of people at work, individual differences, attitudes, personality, attributions, orientations, and the roles they play. So this will be my next report. The process of employee engagement and the process of organizational commitment will be reported by my groupmate Jana, and how organization function and organizational culture will be also reported by my groupmate Angelica. So the significance of organizational behavior, it is to understanding the importance of organizational behavior provides direction to organization. Organizational behavior has great relevance in today's business environment. Studying organizational behavior helps to understand and predict organizational life. It also helps to understand the needs. It has great need and significance to motivate employees and to maintain interrelations in the organization. So for my next subtopic are the characteristics of people. So to manage people effectively, it is necessary to understand the factors that affect how people behave at work. First is the individual differences. So as affected by people's abilities, personality, background and culture, gender and race. Attitudes, causes and manifestations. So for the influence on behavior, it is the personality and attitudes. Attribution theory, it is how we make judgments individual differences. So, mas madaling mag-manage ng tao if everyone were the same, right? But that they are, of course, different because of their abilities, intelligence, personality, background and culture, pati yung environment, kung saan sila lumaki or kung saan tayo lumaki, gender, the race, and disability are additional factors to be taken into account. Importantly, yung needs and wants ng individuals will also differ. So individual differences as affected by people's ability. Ability is the quality that makes an action possible. So Bert and Vernon classified two major ability in two major groups. So first is the V colon ED. It means for standing for verbal abilities, numerical abilities, memory and reasoning abilities. For the K colon M naman, it stands for spatial and mechanical abilities as well as the perceptual and motor skills. It is relating to physical operations such as eye or the hand coordination. So next is the individual differences as affected by people's intelligence. So here are some of the definitions of intelligence. So according to Argyle, it is the capacity to solve problems, apply principles, make inferences, and perceive relationships. According naman to Topless and others, it is the capacity to abstract thinking and reasoning with a range of different contents and media. So according naman to Mackin, it is the capacity to process information. And according to Wright and Taylor, it is what is measured by intelligence test. So kung natatandaan nyo, or kung sino may alam ng intelligence test, one of the most common intelligence tests is the WAIS or the WAIS. So it means Wechsler Adult meron vocabulary, arithmetic, comprehension, and similarities. So for as an operational definition, it can be related to the specific aspects of reasoning, inference, cognition, and perception. So that is that intelligent test attempt to measure. Individual differences as affected by people's personality. So as defined by Topless, the term personality is all-embracing in terms of the individual's behavior and the way it is organized and coordinated when he or she interacts with the environment. So personality can be described in terms of traits and types. That distinguish them from other people. So the so-called big personality traits as defined by Deary and Matthews, first is the neuroticism. Those are the anxiety, depression, hostility, self-consciousness, impulsiveness, and vulnerability emotion. For the openness, it is the feelings, action, ideas, and values. For the agreeableness, it is the trust, straightforwardness, altruism, compliance, modesty, and tender-mindedness. And last, the conscientiousness is the competence, order, dutifulness, achievement striving, self-discipline, and deliberation. So for the type theories of personality, um, type theory identifies a number of types of personality that can be used to categorize people and may form the basis of personality tests. So one of the most widely used type theories is that of Jung. So he identified four major preferences of people. First is the relating to other people. So it's the extroversion or introversion, the introvert ones. Gathering information. It is sensing and intuitive. So sensing in the sense of dealing with facts that can be objectively verified, or for the intuitive, ito yung generating information through insight. So thinking in the sense of emphasizing logical analysis as the basis as is the perceiving or judging. So for the perceiving, it is the collecting all the relevant information before making a decision, or judging, it is the resolving the issue without waiting for a large quantity of data. data. In So the influence of background individual differences may be a function of people's background, which includes yung environment and culture na kinalakihan natin. So si Levinson suggested that individual life structure is shaped by three types of external events. First is the social cultural event. Next is the roles they play, the relationships they have. Third is the opportunities and constraints that enable or inhibit them to express and develop their personality. So, individual differences arising from people's gender, race, and disability. Siyempre, it is dangerous to make assumptions about inherent differences between people just because of their sex, race, or degree of disability. So, kung may differences tayo ng behavior sa work, these are more likely because of environmental and cultural factors. So, there is a research cited by Arnold. First, for the gender is working women as a whole experience more daily stress, marriage, anger than either housewives or men. So for the race demand, ethnic minorities may find that the selection process is biased against them. Promotion prospects are low and that they are subject to other overt or subtle forms of um, or subtle forms of discrimination. So, yung mga ethnic or indigenous people, yun yung laging nakaka-face ng discrimination. So, for the disability, the behavior of people with disabilities can also be affected by the fact that they are not given equal opportunities. Diba napapansin nyo, example, yung hindi pag-hire sa'yo because of your disability or sometimes kayo yung or yung may mga disability yung nauunang ma-lay off or mate-terminate. So, next is tapos na tayo sa individual differences. Next is the attitudes. So, an attitude can broadly be defined as a settled mode of thinking. So, yung attitude natin nade-develop siya through experience. So, within organizations, recognition and promotion, di ba minsan pag malaki na yung salary mo, parang nag-iiba na yung attitude mo, parang nagyayabang ka na kasi malaki na yung sinasahod mo. So next is influences on behavior at work. So there are factors affecting behavior. Characteristics of individuals, so the personality and the attitudes, and the situation in which they are working. So, itong mga factors na to, they interact, and this theory of behavior is sometimes called interaction. So, sa atin, sa iba, and the world around us. And ginagamit natin yung meanings na yun as a basis for making decisions. Influences on behavior at work naman. So, behavior will be influenced by the perceptions of individuals about the situation they are in. Climate. So, yun daw is to describe how people's perceptions of the situation give it psychological significance and meaning. So, they suggested that the key environmental variables are: first is the role characteristics, such as role ambiguity and conflict. So, for job characteristics naman, such as autonomy and challenge. Leader behaviors, including goal emphasis and work facilitation. Work need to be friendly, para madali kayong para wala magkaroon ng para hindi magkaroon ng conflict, and organizational policies that directly affect individuals such as the reward system. Next is attribution theory. This is how it is how we make judgments about people. So we make an attribution when we perceive and describe ourselves. So si Kelly has suggested that there are four criteria that we apply to decide whether behavior so the behavior can be distinguished from the behavior of other people in similar situations. Consensus, if other people agree that the behavior is governed by some personal characteristics. Consistency over time, it is whether the behavior is repeated. And consistency over modality, whether or this is whether or not the behavior is repeated in different situations. Attribution theory is also concerned with the way in which people attribute research by Weiner that high and not because of the lacking of their ability. For the low achievers, they tend not to link success with effort, but to ascribe their failures to lack of ability. So for the orientation to work, orientation is a central organizing principle that underlies people's attempts to make sense of their lives. So in relation naman sa work, as defined by Guest, it is orientation is a persisting tendency to seek certain goals and rewards from work which exists independently of the nature of the work and the work content. So, si Blackburn and Mann, they are blue-collar workers sila sa Peterborough. Um,
Ma'am Angelica, naglalag po ba talaga?
so, si Blackburn and Mann confirmed that yung pay was a key preference area. So, actually, this is top preferences. So, first is the pay nga. The pay, the security, workmates, satisfaction. It is when you only consider the kind of work you do, yung kunwari, for your own growth, ganon. And last is the autonomy. So, they commented that, nung nakita nila itong top preferences, they commented that an obsession with wages clearly emerged kasi number one yung pay. So, roles at work. So, when faced with any situation, example, when carrying out a job, people have to enact a role in order to so at work, the term role describes the part to be played by individuals in fulfilling their job requirements. So there are two distinctions. First is the job description. This is which simply lists and the distinction. Two distinctions pala. This is job description and the role profile. So for the job description, which simply which is more concerned with the behavioral aspects of the work and the outcomes the individual in the role is expected to achieve. So there are three types of roles. The role ambiguity. So the role ambiguity is it is when individuals are unclear about what their role is of them or how they are getting on. They may become insecure or lose confidence in themselves. Next is the role incompatible elements as when there is a clash between what other people expect from the role and what individuals believe as expected of them. And last, role conflict. It results when even if roles are clearly defined and there is no incompatibility between expectation, individuals
All organizations are concerned with what should be done to achieve sustained high levels of Chris Alarde, and we will be discussing motivation, engagement, and commitment under organizational behavior, part 4 of Advanced Human Resource Management. So just to give us an overview of the topics, here in motivation, we will discuss the process of motivation, its types, and the various theories of motivation, which explains and amplify the basic process, of the concepts, organizational commitment, and engagement. So again, all organizations are concerned with what should be done to achieve sustained high levels of performance through people. This means giving close attention to how individuals can best be motivated through such means as incentives, rewards, leadership, and importantly, the work they do and the organization context within which they carry out work. The aim is to develop motivation processes and the work environment that will help us to ensure that individuals deliver results in accordance with the expectations of management. What is motivation? It comes from the word motive, or a reason for doing something. Motivation is concerned with the factors that influence people to behave in certain ways. The three components of motivation as listed by Arnold that what a person is trying to do. Second is effort, or how hard a person is trying. And lastly, the persistence, or how long a person keeps on trying. And then taking a course of action which will ensure that you will get there. Motivation can be also described as goal-directed behavior, which people are motivated when they expect that a course of action is likely to lead to the attainment of a goal and a valued reward, or the one that satisfies their needs. Now we move on to the process of motivation. In this figure, you will see the need, the established goal, take action, and then attain goal. Needs create wants, which are desires to achieve or obtain something. Goals are then established, which it is believed that will satisfy these needs and wants. So if the goal is achieved, the need will be satisfied and the behavior achieved, the same action is less likely to be repeated. This process of repeating successful behavior or actions is called reinforcement, or the law of effect. It has, however, been criticized by 1954 as ignoring the influence of expectations. So there are two types of motivation as originally identified by Herzberg et al. On 1957. These are intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. In comparing the two, These factors include responsibility and having control over one's own resources, autonomy or the freedom of act, scope to use and develop skills and abilities, interesting and challenging work, and opportunities for advancement. The other one is extrinsic motivation, or what is done to or for people to motivate them. This includes rewards such as increased pay, praise or promotion, and punishments, such as disciplinary action, withholding pay, or criticism. These motivators can have an immediate and powerful effect, but it will not necessarily last long. Now we move on to the motivation theories, wherein we examine the process of motivation, then explains why people at work behave in the way they do in terms of their efforts and the directions to encourage people that will further the achievement of organization's goals as well as satisfying their own needs. The most influential theories are classified as follows. First is the instrumentality theory, which states that rewards or punishments serve as the means. Next is content theory, which focuses on the content of motivation and states that motivation is essentially about taking action to satisfy needs and identifies the main needs that influence behavior. Maslow, and in the two-factor model, Herzberg et al. Listed needs which they term satisfiers. Process theory, which focuses on psychological processes which affect motivation by reference to expectations, goals, and perceptions of equity. First in the theories is instrumentality theory, which instrumentality is the belief that we do one thing, it will lead to another. It is the crudest form. Instrumentality theory states that people only work for money. This emerged in the second half of 19th century with its emphasis on the need to rationalize work and on economic outcomes. It assumes that a person will be motivated to work if rewards are contingent upon effective performance. It is also rooted from Taylorism in Scientific Methods of F. W. Taylor, who wrote, "It is impossible through any long period of time to get workmen to work much harder than the average men around them unless they are assured a large and permanent increase in their pay." This theory is based on the principle of reinforcement as influenced by Skinner's 1974 concept of conditioning, the theory that people can be conditioned to act in certain ways if they are rewarded for behaving as required. It is also called the law of effect. Next is content or needs theory. So the basis of this theory is the belief that the content of motivation consists of needs. Not all needs are equally important for a person at any one time. Some may provide a much more powerful drive towards a goal than others, depending on the individual's background. A good example for this is a new car provides transport that is a need, as well as the opportunity to impress the neighbors. Needs theory was developed originally by Maslow in 1954, who postulated the concept of hierarchy of needs, which he believed were fundamental to the personality. attention on the various needs that motivate people and the notion that a satisfied need is no longer a motivator. The five-tier model of human needs. Physical needs are the basic needs for oxygen, food, water, reproduction, air, shelter, and clothing. The safety needs are the need for protection against danger and deprivation. These also includes financial safety, health, and wellness. Third is social needs, wherein a need for love, affection, and acceptance. These also includes friendship, romantic attachment, family, social groups, and community groups. Fourth level is self-esteem, or the need to have a high value of oneself, appreciation, and respect. People have a need to accomplish these things in their life and then have their efforts recognized. Examples are professional activities, academic accomplishments, athletic and team participation. Fifth is self-fulfillment or self-actualization. At the very peak of Maslow's hierarchy is the need to develop potentialities, skills, and self-growth. In process theory, the emphasis is on the psychological processes or forces that affects motivation as well on basic needs. It is also known as cognitive theory because it is concerned with people's perception of their working environment. It is also said that process or cognitive theory can certainly be more useful to managers than needs theory because it provides more realistic guidance. The expectancy theory, goal achievement or the goal theory, and feelings about equity or equity theory. So let's now elaborate these three processes. The concept of expectancy was originally contained in the valency instrumentality expectancy theory or the VIE theory. Valency stands for value. Instrumentality is the belief that if we do one thing, it will lead to another. And expectancy is the probability that action or effort will lead to an outcome. It is influenced by the perceived link between effort and performance. Perceived link between performance, the significance of outcome to the person. It was developed by Porter and Lawler on 1968 into a model which follows Bloom's ideas by suggesting that there are two factors determining the effort people put into their jobs. The value of rewards to individuals insofar as they satisfy their needs for security, social esteem, autonomy, and self-actualization. Next is the probability that rewards depend on effort as perceived by individuals, in other words, their expectations about the relationships between effort and rewards. So it is said that the greater the value of a set of rewards and the higher the probability that receiving each of these rewards depends upon effort, the greater the effort that will be put forth in a given situation. But as for the two variables additional to effort which affect task achievement are ability and role perceptions, wherein the ability is the individual characteristics such as intelligence, manual skills, and know-how, And role perceptions is what the individual wants to do or thinks he or she is required to do. These are good from the viewpoint of the organization if they correspond with what it thinks the individual ought to be doing. They are poor if the views of the individual and the organization do not coincide. So, ayan. This is the motivation model by Porter and Lawler, which value of rewards and probability that rewards depend upon effort leads to effort, and with the additional variable, abilities and role expectations leads to successful performance. Next is the goal theory as developed by Latham and Locke on 1979. And performance are higher when individuals are set specific goals, when goals are difficult but accepted, and when there is a feedback on performance. Erez and Zidon on 1984 emphasized the need for acceptance of and commitment to goals. They found out that as landing goals lead goal theory, however, plays a key part in the performance management process, which was evolved from the largely discredited management by objectives approach. Now we move on to equity theory. This is concerned with how people are being treated compared with others. Equity involves feelings and perceptions and is always a comparative process. Equity theory states in effect that people will be better motivated if they are treated fairly and demotivated if they are treated unfairly. It explains only one aspect of the process of motivation and satisfaction, although it may be significant in terms of morale. Then there are two forms of equity. It's the distributive equity, which is concerned with the fairness with which people feel they are rewarded in accordance with their contribution the fairness with which procedures in such areas as performance appraisal, promotion, and discipline are being operated. Now we go to Herzberg's two-factor theory. In 1959, American psychologist Frederick Irving Herzberg penned two-factor theory. It states that there are certain factors that a business could introduce that would directly motivate employees to work harder at the workplace. The two factors are hygiene factors and motivational factors. Hygiene factors motivates employees in their work. The absence of hygiene factors will cause employees to work less hard. Hygiene factors are not present in the actual job itself but surround the job. So the typical hygiene purpose and hygienic. Next is quality of super. The employee should be given as much. And next is salary. The salary or the pay structure should be fair and reasonable also. It should also be competitive with other organizations in the same industry. For the status, the organization should maintain the status of all employees within the organization, performing meaningful work that can provide a sense of status. Next is security. It is important that the employees Next is company policies and administrations. Um, this should be fair and clear to every employee that they must also be equivalent to those of competitors. And then interpersonal relations. There should be no tolerance for bullying and healthy and in peers, superiors, and subordinates. Next, for the typical are achievement. So a job must give an employee a sense of achievement. This will provide a proud feeling of having something. Next is recognition for achievement. So a job must provide an employee with praise and recognition of their successes. This recognition should come from both their superiors and peers. Responsibility for the task. So employees should own their work. They should hold themselves responsible for this completion. Advancement, this is the promotion opportunities should be exist for the employee. And lastly, growth. The job should give employees the opportunity to learn new skills. Um, this can happen either on the job or through more formal training. This, there will be better employee retention, quality work and performance. So better productivity and boosting the bottom line. Motivation theories. We tackled earlier the instrumentality by F.W. Taylor, content or needs theory by Maslow with the hierarchy of needs, the two-factor model with the motivating factors and hygiene factors by Herzberg, the process and cognitive theory with expectancy theory by Bloom, Porter, and Lawler, with the goal theory, equity theory by Adams. In factors affecting motivations of motivation means that simplistic approaches based on instrumentality theory are unlikely to be successful. People are more likely to be motivated if they work in an environment in which they are valued. A reasonable degree of autonomy and the scope for the use of skills and competencies should be recognized. And the need for the opportunity to grow by developing abilities and careers, the cultural environment of the organization in the shape of its values and norms will influence the impact of any attempts to motivate people by direct or indirect means. And motivation will be enhanced by leadership, which sets the direction, encourages and stimulates achievement, and provides support to employees in their efforts to reach goals and improve their performance generally. The next topic is organizational commitment and engagement. They are important because independently or in association with one another, they can significantly affect organizational performance, but there is some confusion about. We have here the Oxford English Dictionary definition that states that someone is committed when they are morally dedicated, while someone is engaged when they are employed busily. So, commitment and engagement are closely related concepts. In fact, some people use the terms interchangeably or refer to engagement as an alternative, a more up to date, and maybe a more sophisticated term for commitment. As for the definition of organizational commitment as defined by Porter et al. On 1974, commitment refers to attachment and loyalty, the relative strength of individuals' identification with and involvement in a particular organization. Okay. For the meaning of engagement, as defined by Schumento on 2004, engagement is a positive, these are aware of their own and the other's needs, and the way they support each other to fulfill those needs. So to know more about organizational commitment, this refers to the organization or bond employees have with their employer or the organization. The level of organizational commitment can help predict employee engagement and satisfaction, performance, and distribution of leadership. Also, committed employees display more positive behavior, more determination, and motivation. Engagement, commitment, and moral and will increase the employee's chances of staying with that organization. Organizational commitment and employee engagement. The term employee engagement is often confused with employee commitment, but there is one crucial difference. An engaged employee will not automatically be a committed employee. Similarly, a committed employee will not in their job. What yung mas important sa kanilang dalawa? So, yun. Pareha silang important. Kasi the best thing any organization can do is strive for a more delicate balance between both engagement and commitment. How commit that centers on developing and improving various strategies, structures, and operations within an organization, which increases its capacity to change and be more effective. It usually aims to increase profits or profit margins, customer satisfaction, cultural values, adaptability or agility, and market share. It is to improve an organization's effectiveness and its ability to compete in its industry. To be more effective, a company must have committed and engaged employees. In this slide shown the types of organizational commitment, and the figure is the three-component model of commitment. This model explains that commitment to an organization is a psychological state and that it has three distinct components that affect how employees feel about the organization that they work for. So first is the affective commitment or the affection for your organization. This occurs when you feel a strong emotional attachment to your organization and to the fear of loss occurs when you weigh up the pros and cons of leaving your sense of obligation to stay, occurs when you feel a sense of obligation to your organization, even if you're unhappy in your role and even if you want to pursue better opportunities. Then why is organizational employees and their organizations? First, employee productivity. This is when an employee is committed to their organization. They believe in the company's shared goals, vision, and mission, which in turn leads to them being more motivated and therefore more productive. Improve organizational performance. This is when an employee is heavily invested in an organization. They are increasingly likely to be cooperative, immerse themselves in collaboration and working within teams. And once again, this boosts the team's morale and productivity. Advocacy. This is when a committed employee is more likely to advocate for their organization because they believe in the larger vision. Lower absenteeism. This is when an employee is committed. They are much less likely to call in sick than their coworkers. This is because they are more likely to enjoy coming to work, completing tasks, achieving goals, and being a valued team member. Increased turnover. So this is when an employee reaches the stage where they identify with the organization's goals and they are far less likely to consider leaving their job, even when they experience inner dissatisfaction. The factors influences organizational commitment, much an employee enjoys their work, managerial support, a higher amount of leadership support and cohesion led to an increase in organizational commitment. Role stress and role ambiguity. This is when an employee receives conflicting requests from managers or experiences a lack of information to complete a task, and this is more likely to cause role stress. Empowerment. This refers to motivating and energizing employees towards achieving goals, enhancing self-efficacy by reducing powerlessness and increasing job insecurity and employability. Job insecurity negatively correlates with job satisfaction and effective organizational commitment. And when an employee believes their job is secure for the long term, they are more likely to become invested in their role and the organization. What is engagement? Engagement takes place when people are committed to their work. Job engagement naman can exist when individuals are not committed to the organization, except insofar that it gives them the opportunity and scope to perform and to develop their skills and potential. Enhancing job engagement starts with job design or role development. This will focus on the provision of interest and challenge, is interesting in itself, and creates demanding goals to people. Variety activities in the job call for a selection of skills and abilities. Autonomy, the freedom and independence the job holder has. And task significance, where the extent to which the job contributes to a significant end result and has a substantial impact on the lives and work of other people. Now, we go to the Hay Group model of engaged performance. The engaged performance model is Hay Group's trademark approach to total reward design. Hay Group defines engaged performance as a result that is achieved by stimulating employees' enthusiasm for their work and directing it toward organizational success. First, we have the inspiration organizational values and behaviors, quality of leadership, risk sharing, recognition, communication. Second, the quality of work, where is the perception of the interest, opportunities for achievement, freedom, relationship. Third is enabling environment, physical environment, tools and equipment, job training, information and success, safety or personal security. Fourth is tangible rewards, competitive pay, good benefits, incentives for higher performance, ownership, fairness of reward. Fifth is work-life balance, environment, recognition of life cycle needs or flexibility, security of income, and social support. Lastly, in the Hay Group model of engaged performance is future growth or opportunity, wherein there is learning and development beyond current job, career advancement opportunities, and performance improve and feedback. So that ends my report. Thank you for this function and organizational culture. Also, part 4 in organizational behavior in advanced human resource management. The next reporter will be Angelica Federiquito. So thank you guys and thank you Dean.
How organizations function and the organizational culture. So let's talk about future, di ba? So we look for a company. So most of the companies, meron yang purpose, meron yang siniset na goal, meron siyang function, kaya whether it's a private or a government sector. And paano makukuha or yung purpose or yung goal nila. So that's what we call the organization within the company. So that will be our topic for today. So I will be giving an example to you. Authority. So, makikita natin dito, 'di ba? Sabi ko kanina, merong mandate, may vision, may mission, 'di ba? What's the mandate of our company? To responsible for the construction, operation, maintenance, lease ng LRT system sa Pilipinas. We do also have vision, we do have mission, and we do have the core values set, resilience, integrity, professionalism, excellence, and the quality policy. So, normal yan sa isang organization, sa isang okay. So, ito, ang dalawang to, meron ito talaga sa isang company at hindi siya pwede mawala. These are the structure and the processes that operate within it. But then, organizations are affected by the culture that they develop. Hindi naman standard lahat ng culture na meron sa isang company. Iba-iba yan. Magkaiba sa private, magkaiba din sa government. Well, ako, as experience, but first,
let's talk about the theories under the organization. So let's go back to history muna. So there are 7 kinds of theories. So the first is the classical school. So dito, they believe in control, in order, in formality. Masyadong classic, masyadong in control, masyadong in order. Parang the people here is parang machine, parang ganun eh. Then the bureaucratic model naman, the next, ito coldly logical, in which the personalized relationship and non-rational or we all know naman what's the term bureaucracy means, 'di ba? Then the third is the human relation school. So dito naman the importance of the people for their productivity, there is a human relationship. Dito, the importance of informal organization, the network of informal roles and relationship which, for better or worse, strongly influences the way the formal structure operates. So, merong important ang informal groups dito. Focus has shifted completely siya sa behavior ng tao sa isang organization. Hindi lang siya tungkol sa productivity ng tao. Meron ding behavior. Kasi, hindi naman lahat ng tao pare-pareha ng behavior yan. Depende yan sa pinanggalingan nilang lugar. May mga kanya-kanya yung values, may kanya-kanya silang paniniwala. But then there are 4 behavioral scientists na nag-share ng may ideas nila and thoughts regarding the behavioral science school. These are Agrigis, the individual should be given opportunity. Herzberg, the improvements in organization design must center on the individual job. McGregor, recognizing the needs of both the organization and individual to work together. And Likert, the effective organization will build and maintain the people's sense of personal worth and importance. So, pare-pareha siya. Pare-parehas na focus on the behavior science. Then, the next is the system school. So, ito naman, the emphasis is on the concept of transaction across the boundaries. There is an influence by their environments. And then the sixth, the socio-technical model. This naman emphasize on the interrelationship between and the management structure of the enterprise. So more of interrelation between the human and the social aspect. Then the 7 is the contingency school. Dito naman, they are against those who see the organization as mutually opposed social systems, and they disagree with those who impose rigid principles of organization. Okay, so let's go now to the overall framework for examining the organization. So first, there is always the key organizational processes. So mahalaga yan. External environment. This includes the suppliers, the markets, the competitors, and even the public attitude, economic and political system, the laws. Yan. Nakaka-apekto talaga yan. Then, the formal organizational requirements. These are the system designed to regulate the action of the employees, di ba? May siniset na ganito eh, ganito dapat yung gawin, ganyan. Then the social system rather. These are the culture and relationship between the employees in terms of power, affiliation, and trust. Then syempre yung technology hindi yan mawawala, and the last is the dominant coalition in which they oversee the organization as a whole and control its basic policy making. Then, let's proceed now dun sa sinabi ko kanina, di ba, there are 2 factors na importante sa isang organization. And the first is the organization culture. So, as defined, it incorporates a network of roles and relationship and are there to help in the process of ensuring that collective effort is explicitly organized to achieve a specified end. So, ito, binubuo to ng units, functions, divisions, departments, teams in which they have different kinds of activities or tasks like sa process sila or sa project, sa product, sa market, sa customers, yan. So, iba-iba man sila ng pero kanya-kanya siyang function. And then pero bumubuo pa rin sila sa isang to charts. So, meron ako ibibigay na example kanina ng mga organization charts. So, di ba, kahit naman sino sa atin, we know ano itsura ng chart. So, yun, tingnan natin later. Then, the next is the types of organization. So, the first is the line and staff. So, it is consists of functions and it involves the structuring of organization, each concerned with discrete manufacturing, sales, distribution, service function, and even serving a particular. And the third is the decentralized organization. So ito naman, they retain only a skeleton headquarters staff na nagdi-deal sa financial control matters, strategic planning, legal issues, and sometimes may mga personal issues din. Then the fourth is the matrix organization. So dito, papasok yung mga project-based na mga organization. So, for example, sa amin, even though I am under the Light Rail Transit Authority, I am assigned sa isang project ng company namin, which is the Line 1 Cavite Extension Project. So, meron din kaming sariling organizational chart. And I think we are an example of a matrix organization. Then the fifth is the flexible organization. Ito naman, meron mang siyang mga core skeleton workforce na meron sa isang organization. If it is necessary to hire additional manpower or additional workforce, kinakailangan mong mag-hire kasi kailangan to achieve the common purpose or goal na isang company. So, kaya sila tinawag na flexible organization. And the sixth is the process-based organization. So, ito naman, there is still a designated function for, say, manufacturing, sales, and distribution, but the emphasis will be on how these areas work together in a multifunctional projects to deal with the new demands such as product or market development. Yan. So, yan yung process-based organization. Talking kanina, the matrix organization, which is the organizational chart of my project, kung saan ako involved, sa Line 1 Cavite Extension Project. So, we are divided into 4 divisions. Meron kaming project manager. Then, we have the office of the project manager, the finance and the administrative division, the engineering division, and the Finance and Administrative Division. Yan, tingnan nyo na lang kung sino yung kamukha ko dyan. Then, kanina, even though we are in a matrix kind of organization, pasok pa rin kami sa LRTA. So, doon kami, we are a unified process. And if makikita nyo, we have a different kinds of departments. But then, yun nga, sabi ko kanina, this is an example, I think, of a flexible organization kasi we have a core skeleton workforce. But then, out of the, now, to share lang, the LRTA has a total number of 970 employees, but then, yung 200 something lang yun talaga yung core, yun lang talaga yung plantilla, and the rest are contract of service, contractual positions, and job orders. Then, let's go now to the organizational processes. So, importante yan. Necessary to consider this as kasama dito yung group behavior, teamwork, leadership, power, politics, and conflict, interaction, and networking, and communication. So, yung una, the group behavior, groups, merong informal groups, but then, kung okay yung processes within the group, okay siya. So, kailangan, there is an improvement of the group processes through various forms of training. For example, team building, interactive skills training. So, importante yan para yung group, hindi siya yung watak-watak. Kailangan maging intact pa rin siya. Kaya nga, sinabi is to appreciate how groups behave. Then, the next is the teamwork. So, sinasabi, ang team, as defined, it is a small number of people with complementary skills who are committed to a common purpose, performance goal, and approach for which they hold themselves mutually accountable. So, ang example ko dito, even though isa kaming organization, we do have a lot of na lang sa inyo para may idea kayo. Sila ang assign sa so dito pwede sila na dito yung legal team namin. Then the second, there is also a utility relocation team. So dito naman, yung pagbili mo naman ng right of way, hindi naman ibig sabihin ng tubig ng Maynila dyan sa ilalim. So kailangan nating i-transfer yon. That's why we create at nang nasa plano ng project. So, kailangan ng survey team. Then, the next is the admin team. So, sila yung nag-handle ng mga personnel na hinar mo, pasweldo, ganyan, kung ano mga kailangan, contract, ganyan. Then, the next is the relocation team. Bukod sa obstruction na utilities, mga Maynilad and Meralco, telcos, ganyan, meron ding mga informal settlers na nakaharang sa right of way. So, kailangan kausapin sila, ganyan, bigyan sila ng option. It's either bumunta sila sa probinsya or bibigyan namin sila ng pabahay. Then, we do also have a depot for example, itong Baclaran, may Baclaran Depot. Then, nag-add kami sa may Sapote area, yun yung Sapote Depot. Then, we do also have the LRV team. So, syempre, paano project kung walang tren na bago? So, kailangan namin magkaroon ng additional na mga claims for payment ng mga contractor, ng mga consultants, and even other kinds, pati pagbabayad sa mga property owners. Yan. So I can say naman yung project namin, considering na meron naman kaming output, so we are an effective team. We are an effective team rather. But there are times din na meron mga pasaway or kaya meron kang create na team pero walang output. So these are called dysfunctional team. So yun. Then, yun nga sa team, 'di ba? Being a group effort, team delegation, kailangan meron kang kanya-kanyang roles. Hindi pwedeng magsapawan ng role. Pwera na lang if ang isang task ay kailangan maraming members. But then, you can be the chairman, you can be the shaper, you can be the company worker, the plans or yung nagbibigay ng mga ideas, resource investigators, monitor, evaluators, team workers, completer, finisher. So, it will depend on how the leader will assign their task or yung tinatawag nating team delegation. Pero that necessarily mean to say na isa lang ang role mo. You can have different kinds of role. Depende yan sa effectiveness mo or sa efficiency mo bilang isang empleyado or kasama sa organization. Then let's proceed now to the leadership, power, politics, and conflict. So the first is the leadership. So as defined, is the ability to persuade others willingly to behave differently. So ano ba ang role ng isang leader? Siyempre, first is to achieve the task na inassign sa kanila. And of course, to do that, you have to maintain the effective relationship between the group and the individuals in it. Kailangan, if merong kailangan sa task, may task need, may group maintenance need, may individual needs, kung kailangan or kailangan mo siyang i-provide, basta okay siyang i-provide at kaya mo siyang i-provide. And kung ito yung makakapag-complete ng task, why not provide? Then the second is the power. So ito naman, being, syempre, kailangan bigyan ka or to get things done in order to process sharing the Rasi model in which yung pagiging, yan, may boundaries yan. Kunyari, being responsible, dapat hanggang dito ka lang sa kung saan ka lang hindi mo kailangang across the boundaries ka. Pero kung sinabihan ka na, o sige, give some ideas, baka naman po pwede yan. And then, ikaw yung binigyan ng task to complete it or to do it. And then, you have the power to do it. You're being accountable also and being consulted and informed. Then the third is the politics. So I will be sharing something about my personal experience nung na-hire ako sa government sector. So ang nakikita ko kasi example dito is hindi ko kasi masabi if it is a politics in a sense kasi I am qualified to the position. So I was hired galing ako sa private sector and then inofferan ako ng relative ko na pumasok sa company ng LRTA. So honestly, I haven't read any company profile. Hindi ako nagbasa. So sabi nila, may project kasi sa LRT, di Cavite Extension Project. And walang accountant. Kailangan mag-hire ng accountant. Masyado ng delay ang Cavite project. Parang sa ngayon, nasa 2 dekada na, pero yun, walang resulta. So, I was hired. Then, hindi ako gumawa ng letter of intent ko. Hindi rin ako nag-endorse sa sarili ko. Yung project manager namin ngayon, siya yung nagpa-approve, siya yung gumawa ng letter of intent. Siya yung nag-endorse sa akin sa higher management. And then, tinawag lang ako for interview. Yung pala, pipirma na ako ng kontrata. So, do you think it's an example of a politics considering na it is the senior corporate accountant. And hindi naman ako yung kagaya ng iba na kapag na-hire parang na-hire lang dahil kakilala and pagdating sa trabaho Then the next is the conflict. Ito naman normal sa isang organization na magkaroon ng conflict. But then, there is what you call adjustments, compromises, di ba? Para maging maayos pa rin. Siguro, kaya nagkakaroon ng ganito is that magkakaiba kasi tayo ng utak, magkakaiba tayo na naiisip, magkakaiba tayo na mga ideas. And tingin ko, meron mga ideas na hindi okay, meron din naman talagang ideas na pwede mong i-apply. So, compromise, usapan, pag-usapan lang. And another thing ganyan. But kaya mong baguhin yun. So, yun. That's what we are saying pagdating sa conflict. Yun. So, nag-set din ako na another example purposes only. So, I have attached here a position na ina-applyan ng 2 applicant. So, yung una, rank 1 is 98, and the second is 94. Pero, ang na-hire yung 94. So, is this a kind of a politics considering na pagdating sa points, parehas naman silang qualified. 94 is a good grade, di ba? So, yan. Working, importante din yan sa company. Kailangan may interaction sa members, may networking para ma-market mo yung kung ano man yung ino-offer mo. And of course, the communication, hindi yan mawawala sa organization. Napaka-importante nito. And the next is the organizational culture. So this is the second part of my topic. So first, let's define what is organizational culture. So as defined, it is the pattern of values, norms, beliefs, attitudes, and assumptions that may not have been articulated but shape the ways in which people behave and things get done. So as this, the value refer to what is believed to be important about how people and the organizations behave, and the norm, it is the unwritten rules of behavior. So sa isang company, there are different what are the employees or the members are doing is that to adopt and to accept the change as long as it is okay and it is yun kung okay naman siyang i-adopt. And pumapasok din sa organizational climate is the pumapasok sa organizational culture ang organizational climate. So ano ba tong organizational climate? So, sa akin, ang pagkakaintindi ko dito, sabihin natin example is, ang culture is that, di ba, normal. An employee is the task or yung trabaho niya is to do his job. Kailangan gawin niya to para naman maging maganda ang sales. Hindi nila na-achieve yung kailangan nilang target when it comes to revenue. Pero, nandiyan yung effort, nandiyan yung trabaho niya na ginagawa naman niya. So, in effect, dun sa tao, it is what people or allowances, ganyan. Am I fit for the job pa, ganyan. So, dyan pumapasok yung tinatawag nating organizational climate. So, they are interrelated, the climate and the culture. So, the next is how organizational culture develops. So, sinasabi, culture is learned over a period of time. So, di ba nga, pag na-hire ka, so kung from private to private man yan, or private to government, so, di ba, ang culture. So, this is learned over a period that magagawa. So, based on studies. So, the first is the trauma model. So, members of the organization learn to cope with some threat by the erection of defense mechanism. So, ang example na naisip ko dito is, kunyari, example sa kumpanya namin, sa LRTA, every Sunday required kami mag-antigen bago kami pumasok for that week. O kaya, kapag nag-positive kami sa antigen, we are required for a confirmatory swab test ng RT-PCR bago ka pumasok sa kumpanya ulit for quarantine na ilang days. Yun ang kailangan gawin, yun ang kailangan policy sa ngayon, kahit na ayaw ko kasi hindi ko naman sinasabi na hindi ka effective kapag nag-work from home, pero kasi meron sa amin na hindi mo na siya mahagilap kapag work from home. Kaya yung 5 days na on duty work from home schedule. Then, kapag nasasanay na, dahil yun na yung policy, as time goes by, months na ang at ginagawa nyo pa rin yun, dyan pumapasok yung positive reinforcement model in seems where things that seem to work become embedded and entrenched. So, yun. Then, the next is the diversity of culture. Dito, dahil ang isa na meron sa isang department, sa amin, sa project namin, sinasabi dito na sa amin, we are 45 in our the project management office, kanya-kanya yung profession. Merong engineer, merong accountant, merong lawyer, merong school graduate, iba-iba, may driver, ganan. Sa age, merong bata, may matanda, may baby boomers, may Gen X, may Gen Y, may millennials, di ba? Or may Bisaya, meron din Tagalog, meron ding Inglesero, ganyan. And sa schools, UE, sa UP, sa Ateneo, meron. And that's important. Then, the components of culture. So, nabanggit kanina, the values, the norms, then the artifacts, leadership or management style. So, di ba, sinet kong example kanina, yung sa, di ba, sinasabi, the values or beliefs in what is best or good for the organization and what should or ought to happen. So, yung example ko dyan, yung sa core values ng LRTA, the resilience, integrity, professionalism, excellence. Resilient, pag sinabi sa amin, being a government ng gobyerno na patakbuhin mo ang tren, kahit na 20 lang ang pasakayin mo dyan, kahit hindi ka mag-income dyan dahil kailangan mo, sinabihan ka na magpatakbo ng tren, kailangan maging resilient ka of doing it. Gagawin mo pa rin yun kasi gobyerno tayo eh. Yun yung, diba? Yun yung nakalagay sa mandate natin, government. Tatanggap ka ba ng suhol galing sa contractor or consultant? Are you being, mo ba yung pagiging yung integrity mo, yung value na yun? Normal na meeting. A-attend ka ba on time? Malilate ka ba? Or ano ka ba? I think this applies also to other companies. Then the next is the norms or the unwritten rules of behavior. It is never expressed in writing, pero nagigets mo siya na gagawin mo. Kunyari, trabaho mo na may in-email sa'yo, edi trabaho mong basahin yun. Di ba? Normal na ginagawa mo siya. Or sa pagsusuot ng uniform, being a professional, di ka naman pwede magsuot ng not written, but it is the way people supposed to do, to say, to believe. Diba? Yung bukod pa yung lunch break. But then, mostly sa mga empleyado, ang 8 hours or 9 hours na diba? Then, of an organization that people hear, see, or feel. Landing of the company o kaya may pa-free lunch sa company or sa LRTA may free antigen sa mga pasahero sa Cubao Station sa Recto Station. The company is kung ano yung nakikita ng tao sa kumpanyang yun. Then the next is the leadership style or the management style. So it's either charismatic or non-charismatic. Ano ang pinagkaiba nito? Si charismatic, you're achievement-oriented or calculated risk-taker, good communicators. As to the non-charismatic, they rely mainly on their know-how, diba? Their quiet confidence, and their cool analytic approach to dealing with problems. They impose their decision using their position to force people to do as they are told. As to the third is the enabler controller. The enablers inspire people trade money, jobs, and security for compliance. As to the transformational, they motivate people to strive for higher level goals. So as to the different styles na binanggit, diba? For me, pwede ka rin naman na charismatic at the same time, democratic at the same time, emotional. So it's up to you on how are you going to handle your team, on how are you going to handle the organization, and it is how the people will see you as a leader, di ba? Then, hindi mawawala ang assessment sa organizational culture. And it is done through questionnaires, ganyan. Department. They see the external pagdating sa customer satisfaction, ganyan. Uso yan sa LRT because in which dun pumapasok yung strategic plan kung ano yung dapat mong baguhin. Ang dami dyan, for sure, may mga reklamo ng customers dyan. And ano ang sagot ng kumpanya dyan? Ideal culture, walang perfect. Hindi mo masasabi na perfect ang isang culture. But appropriate culture meron. What do you mean by appropriate culture? It is the means that there can be no universal prescription for managing culture. Wala yan, walang standard yan. But then, there are certain approaches kung paano siya magiging acceptable sa mga. So, that's what appropriate culture is. Then, pwede kang suportahan sa culture na meron, and worst case, changing of culture. But to tell you, changing culture Napakahirap gawin yan, lalo na kung normal na empleyado ka. But, for purposes of discussion, changing culture, pwede yan gawin through culture analysis, questionnaire, survey, discussion into formal groups or workshops yan. Kung makakakuha ka ng ebidensya na kailangan na talaga natin baguhin yung culture, sige go. Basta meron ka ebidensya kung paano mo siya, kung ano, and when you identified already this kind of things needs to be changed or ano, the next step is to consider kung paano yung change ng management. And the effectiveness of culture change programs largely depends on the quality of the change management processes. And to manage change, it is first necessary to understand the types of change and why people resist change. So, meron yung process kung gusto mo ng culture change. Yan. So, thank you. I hope marami kayong napulot topic. So, have a great day ahead and thank you.
Okay, so again, this will be the characteristic of organizational behavior. So it is a way of thinking about individuals, groups, and organizations. So it is multidisciplinary, of course. It uses principles, models, theories, methods from other disciplines. So there is a distinctly humanistic orientation. So people in their attitudes, perceptions, learning capacities, feelings, and goals are of major importance. So it is performance oriented. It deals with the factors affecting performance and how it can be improved. So the use of scientific method is important in studying variables and relationship. So it is applications oriented in the sense of being concerned with providing useful answers to questions which arise when managing organizations. Then the factors affecting organizational behavior, of course, there are some characteristic of people at work, no, individual differences, attitudes, personality, attributions, orientations, and the roles they play. No, so how people are motivated, no, the process of employee engagement. So the process of organizational commitment, no, how organization functions, so organizational culture. For compliance audit of registered program, syempre po alam naman po natin na okay. Then the sources, no, comprise the discipline of psychology, social psychology, no, and sociology. So contributions are based on an understanding of individual differences, leaderships, group processes, and concepts such as motivation, engagement, and commitment. So applications cover all aspects of people management and development. So all managers and HR specialists are in the business of influencing behavior in directions that will meet business needs. No, an understanding of organizational processes and skills in the analysis and diagnosis of organizational behavior is therefore important. Of course, no. When it comes to individual differences, no, the development of human resource processes and the design of organizations are often based on the belief that everyone is the same and will behave rationally when faced with change or other demands. But the behavior of people differs because of their characteristics and individual differences, and it is not always rational. So variation in personal characteristics does result from difference in competencies, construct, expectation, values, self-regulatory plans, and so on. So personality is a product of both nature o yung hereditary na sinasabi natin and nurture. So the pattern of life experience. So personality can be described in terms of traits or types. No? So an emotional intelligence characteristics are self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, and social skills. So the types of behavior associated with individual differences are perceptions, attribution, orientation, roles, and bounded rationality. So the role individuals occupy at work and elsewhere. So exist in relation to other people. So their role set, which consists of the individuals with whom a role holder interacts and therefore influences, and is also influenced by them, of course. No. So when it comes to the process of motivation, no, our presenter mentioned that motivation is goal-oriented behavior. No, people are motivated when they expect that a course of action is likely to lead to the attainment of a goal and a value reward, one that satisfies their needs and wants. So there are two basic, no? We have intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Then the motivation theory says that there are a number of motivation theories, no, which in the main are complementary to one another. So the most significant theories are those concerned with expectancy, goal setting, and equity, which are classified as forms of cognitive theories. So again, money is a powerful motivating force because it is linked directly or indirectly to the satisfaction of many needs. Alam natin yan, huwag tayo magpaka-plastic. Money may in itself have no intrinsic meaning, but it acquires significant motivating power because it comes to symbolize so many intangible goals. No? So motivation strategies aim to create a working environment and to develop policies and practices that will provide for higher level of performance from employees. No? So they include the development of total reward system, of course, as additional, and performance management process, the design of intrinsically motivating jobs and leadership development programs. No? So when it comes to the comparison of the concept of engagement and commitment, so a while ago, no, as I mentioned, engagement is job-oriented and commitment is organization-oriented. Again, engagement is a job-oriented and commitment is an orientation-oriented. And this is clear distinction, but the terms are often confused, actually. No? So there is a close link between high levels of engagement and positive discretionary behavior. So the first factor is the rational aspect, which relates to employees' understanding of the role, where it fits in the wider organization and how it aligns with business objectives. So the second is the emotional aspect, which has to do with how people feel about the organization, whether their work gives them a sense of personal accomplishment and how they relate to their manager. So we need to enhance motivation through the work itself. So the work environment, leadership, and opportunities for growth. So for us to measure, this can be done through published surveys that enable benchmarking to take place with the levels of engagement achieved in other organizations. So alternatively, organizations can develop their own surveys to suit their circumstances. So the concept of job satisfaction is closely linked to that engagement. Job satisfaction refers to the attitude and feeling people have about their work. So positive and favorable attitude, no, towards the job lead to engagement and therefore job satisfaction. So the level of job satisfaction is affected by intrinsic and extrinsic motivating factors because the quality of supervision, social relationship with the work group, and the other to which individuals succeed or fail in their work. Okay, so commitment refers to the attachment and loyalty. So it is associated with the feelings of individuals about their organizations. So commitment is the relative strength of the individual's identification with and involvement in a particular organization. So there has been two schools of thought about what makes commitment important. Number one, the from control to commitment. No, then another one, of course, is the Japanese Excellence School. It is presented by writers, no, Peter and Waterman. No, so and when it comes to the problems with the concept of commitment, no, there are three main problem areas. No, it's unitary frame, no, of preference. It might inhibit flexibility, and it does not necessarily result in improved organizational performance. And what are the factors affecting the commitment? No? So number one is strategic level. No? Supportive business strategies, top management value, commitment, and an effective voice for HR is strategy making and governance. Another is functional, no? The human resource policy. So this functional level, no, sabi nga nung isa nating classmate nyo dito, na functional level must consider, no, staffing based on employment stabilization, investment on employment stabilization, investment in training and development, and contingent compensation that reinforce cooperation, participation, and contribution. Another is, of course, the workplace level. So it is based on the selection of high standards, broad task design and teamwork, employee involvement in problem solving, and a climate of cooperation and trust. No? In developing a commitment strategy, we have some steps to create commitment. No, may include initiative to increase involvement and ownership. So communication, leadership, development, developing a sense of excitement in their job, and developing various human resource policy and practice initiative. So human resource can provide advice and guidance on communicating corporate values, building trust, making commitment, a two-way process, developing a positive psychological contract, no, the development of partnership agreements, single as status and increased employment security, and the use of performance management to align individual and organizational goal. No, so another thing, of course, is the process of organizing. No, again, organizing is a process of making arrangement in the form of defined or understood responsibilities in relationship to enable people to work cooperatively together. So formal organizations have formal structures. So a while ago, no, our presenter gave us different type of organizations, no, organizational chart, no, may matrix, may functional, and so on. So again, formal organization have formal structure. Yun yung tinatawag natin lines of command, no? But to varying extents, they can operate informally as well as formally by means of network of rules in relationship that cut across formal organizational boundaries and line of commands. Organization theory aims to describe how organizations functions, and there are a number of schools and models. So organizations vary in their complexity. Take note of that, no? But it is necessary to divide the overall management task into a variety of activities to allocate these activities to the different parts of the organizations and to establish means of controlling, coordinating, and integrating them. So the basic types of organization are line and staff, divisional, decentralized, matrix, and process-based. No? So the structure of an organization as described in the organizational chart does not give any real indication of how it functions. To understand this, it is necessary to consider the various processes that take place within the structural framework, those of interaction and networking. So communication, group behavior, leadership, power, politics, and conflict. No? So organization consists of groups of people working together. So groups of or teams exist when a number of people work together or regularly interact with one another. So interaction take place within and between groups, and the degree to which these processes are formalized varies according to the organizational context. Actually, it is also advisable in an organization to have a different employees from different colleges and universities, no, because they have their own best practices that they're able to share with one another, no, because teamwork is important. No, a team is a small number of people with complementary skills who are committed to a common purpose, performance goals, and approach for which they hold themselves mutually accountable. Leaders have two main rules. No, first, they must achieve the task. Second, they have to maintain effective leadership between themselves and the group and the individual or individuals in it. So effective in the sense that the relationships are conducive to achieving task. But of course, we have power. No? Directly or indirectly, the use of power in influencing behavior is a pervading feature of organizations, whether it is exerted by managers, specialists, informal groups, or trade union officials. So pag sinabi kanina, sabi ni Miss Presenter, no, power in politics, no, power in politics are inextricably mixed, and in any organization there will inevitably be people who want to achieve their satisfaction by acquiring power, legitimately man yan or illegitimately. No, because ano kakabadse, no, defines politics as a process that of influencing individuals and groups of people to your point of view where you cannot rely on authority. So organizational politicians are determined to get their own way by fair means or foul, no? Again, hindi nawawala nga sabi ni Ms. Presenter ang conflict. Conflict is inevitable in organizations because their functions by means of adjustment and compromises among competitive elements in their structure and membership. Again, conflict also arises when there is change because it may be seen as a threat to be challenged or resisted, or when there is a prostration, of course, no? Another topic, no, that our presenter mentioned is about the organizational culture. So the characteristic of organizational culture covered, no, it is difficult to define because often a pointless exercise. It is multidimensional, no, with many different components at different levels. It is not particularly dynamic and ever-changing because being relatively stable over short periods of time. It takes time to establish and therefore time to change a corporate culture. So that the significance of organizational culture, culture represents the social glue and generates a way feeling, no? Thus counteracting processes of differentiations that are unavoidable part of organizational life. So organizational culture offers a shared system of meanings that it is the basis for communication and mutual understanding. So if the functions are not fulfilled in a satisfactory way, culture may significantly reduce the efficiency of an organization. So how organizational culture develops? No? We could develop the organizational culture in our company over a period of time through a visionary leaders. Sino ba ang visionary leaders na candidate natin ngayon? Si Lacson ba? Si Esco Moreno ba? Sino ang visionary? Around critical incidents, no? From the need to maintain effective working relationships among organization members by the influence of the organization's environment, no? Of course. So, there may be different cultures within organization, although there could be some common organizational values or norms. But in some respect, even this will vary between different work environments. Organizational culture can be described in terms of values, norms, artifacts, and management or leadership style. So, there had been many attempts to classify or categorize organizational culture as a basis for the analysis of cultures in organization and for taking action to support or change them. So most of these classifications are expressed in 4 dimensions. And of course, we have power-oriented, no? People-oriented, task-oriented, and role-oriented. No? Organizational climate measures attempt to assess organization in terms of dimensions that are thought to capture or describe this perception about climate. So it cannot be said that one culture is better than another. Sinabi naman ni presenter yan kanina. Only that a culture is to a greater or lesser extent appropriate in the sense of being relevant to the needs and circumstances of the organizations in helping rather than hindering its performance. So we'll be able to support in change culture. So it may not be possible to define an ideal culture or to prescribe how it can be developed, no? But it is certain that embedded culture exert considerable influence on organizational behavior and therefore performance. If there is an appropriate and effective culture, it would be desirable to take steps to support or reinforce it. If the culture is inappropriate, we need to attempt, our attempt should be made to determine what needs to be changed and to develop and implement plans for change. So I think that's it for part number 4.